Table 7 sat in the back corner of the Blue Lantern Cafe, close enough to the kitchen to smell coffee grounds and burnt toast, far enough away that conversations dissolved into background noise. It was the table people chose when they didn't want to be noticed. On the morning of April 19th, the waitress noticed something wrong. The cafe opened at 6 a.m. By 6:12, a man was already seated at table 7, slumped slightly forward, hands resting on the tabletop. He hadn't ordered. He hadn't moved. At first, the staff assumed he'd fallen asleep, but when the manager touched his shoulder, the man tipped sideways and slid to the floor. He was dead. The victim was identified as Leonard Fisk, 61, a retired machinist who lived alone in a small rental duplex 3 blocks away. The medical examiner later determined he'd been poisoned, killed by a fast-acting toxin mixed into his coffee. Time of death: approximately 5:45 a.m., before the cafe officially opened. Which raised the obvious question: how did Leonard drink coffee at a closed cafe? Security footage showed Leonard arriving at 5:32 a.m., unlocking the front door and walking inside. He sat at table 7 and waited. At 5:41, another figure entered through the same door, their face hidden by a hood. They approached Leonard, placed a mug in front of him, sat briefly in the chair across from him, then left. At 5:46, Leonard collapsed. The cafe owner insisted the footage made no sense. Only 2 people had keys, himself and his daughter Mara, who managed the morning shift. Both denied being there. Detectives examined the mug. No fingerprints, no residue except trace amounts of a rare industrial chemical, something not sold in stores, something used in metal treatment plants. That detail cracked Leonard's quiet life open. Before retirement, Leonard had worked at a manufacturing facility that shut down abruptly after an anonymous whistleblower reported safety violations. The plant was fined heavily. Several managers lost their jobs. One went to prison for falsifying records. Investigators revisited those names. One stood out: Harold Keene, a former supervisor who publicly blamed Leonard for ruining everything. Harold now worked as a night security contractor, the kind of job that came with access to